So in today's class, let us see about the introduction to robotics. There is a small introduction as per the syllabus about the robotics. So even though we have seen many different types of robots, either physically or through the on the, the the media or internet, whatever it is by means. So different kinds of them. So let us start understanding about what are the type of robots are there. They have to have got some of the features to be common and fits into some of the any of the existing any existing robot that fits into the types of any at least any one of the classifications of robots. So yes, so robot basically these are devices that are programmed to move parts or to work in a or work with a tool. So the first thing is that we want to have the movement, and the next one is about it can be for any of the purposes, either for machining purposes or for assisting in that, or even for any other applications like for household or for automation processes. So it's a multidisciplinary field in the engineering, which requires the help of electronics, computer science for programming, then electricals for driving systems, and mechanical linkages. So all these put together only a robot can be formed. It's not that only electronics or only programming part is enough for a robot to be developed. Right. So in this, so one of them is the anthropomorphic or the human-like characteristics of robots that we see where in some of the restaurants where the food is being served by a robot. So which something resembles a human being kind of machine itself, right? Okay. So for this also this arm has to be programmed the movement, right? If it is for what are the movements are there that has to be performed by the robot, are the required linkages, then holding features, and then it has to be programmed. Electrical circuits have to be developed, right? And according to the program, it has to give out the electrical signals, and then from this the electrical signals has to run the motor or the servo motors, and so that the mechanical linkages starts moving according to the instructions that is being given. Right. So there are general purpose robots as well as industrial robots. So general purpose robots for which has been utilized to serve the menu in a hotel, right? Whereas it is in the industrial robots meant specifically for robots to do the work, especially in hazardous environments. Say, for example, the painting shop of an automobile company. So every day, thousands of parts has to be painted, especially the outer body. If you take up if it's an automobile, a car manufacturing company, the car body, the doors, everything has to be painted. So every day it has to do that job where that paint chemical is so hazardous for a human being to inhale, and it will lead to cancer and other things. So to avoid such things in such places, a robot is better, where we get good surface finish accuracy. Then it can work 24/7, and there is no hazards also, right? So like that, in such places, robots are preferred to be used. Similarly, in the case of weldings that is to be done for the automotive bodies, right? Spray painting, machine tools, that is in a factory where there is continuous loading of material and unloading of the material. So in all those cases where repetitive jobs are there, robots can also be used. Okay, so now we'll go and see the anatomy of the robot, a simple schematic thing which is very essential for most of the things. So one is, there are two things that comes into picture for all these movements. If the joints is first thing, the other one is the links. Okay, a joint in a robot is similar to a joint in a human body, just like how we have our knees that is being joined between the thigh bone and the lower half of the other bone that is present. That is the calf muscles with which the bones have been attached. So even over here, even in our hand, right, the forearm is connected to the arms, right, through the to another joint, and the wrist and the forearm is connected by another joint, that is the wrist, right. So the movements are as per the degrees of freedom actually. So there comes the degree of freedom, nothing but in which and all the direction that particular part, that is the link over here, if we have to say technically, can move, right. So that is called as the degrees of freedom or degrees of freedom of motion, right. Okay, so that depends upon each joint. Okay, so if we take up our palm, we can move it up and down, right. We can also rotate it, right. So there are certain flexibilities. Right now, if you take up our knee, we can only bend it in one direction, right. We cannot go beyond that, right. We cannot go beyond that. Just like a swinging pendulum. Now, if I take up our knee joint, okay, and this is the knee joint, yes, and this is the other half of the bone where the next is our foot that is present. Now this, because of this joint, it's got the flexibility that it can move only so much, right? But it cannot go just like a swinging pendulum like this. Okay, no more than this particular line. So it's got degrees of freedom, right? Yeah. So that is the main thing of the link, which actually gives the connection between two links. Okay, right. The purpose of the link is to provide controlled relative movements, okay, between the input and the output link also, right. So links are nothing but joining sections. So all these links required, how many our portions that we need are being calculated. So according to the mechanism and the movement that is required, is being done. So how many of our links are required? Right. So before going to this, the configuration of the robots. So this is just a very simple schematic diagram for a robot. So if you look at this, so this is one link, right? So this is another link. This is the third link, right? So usually for all of this, there should be some kind of base that is always there, without which the links cannot be there, right? Okay, and the connection between these two links is the joint. So between link 0 and link 1, there is joint number 1. So we can have different degrees of freedom where this can move in this direction. So the joint between the joint that is present between link number 1 and link number 2, we can have that the joint can allow this link to move in this particular direction or even rotate, right? So depending upon the type of motions that is required, the number of links and joints are being decided. Okay. So now the next thing is that now we shall go to the robot configuration, physical configuration. Yeah. So what are the type of robots is there, and for what are the purpose it has been meant? This can be classified generally in these 4 configuration. One is the the Cartesian configuration. The next one is the cylindrical configuration. Third one is the polar or spherical configuration. And the last one is the jointed arm or revolve configuration, generally called by jointed arm. Okay. So we'll see this one by one now. This is the Cartesian coordinate, what you can see on the right side of the display screen, the diagram, where the first thing is that there is one link which is vertical, above which there is a horizontal link which can move in z-axis. That is, it can move vertically above or below by having this link as the guide way, right? Okay. Now with this second thing, joint that is present over here horizontally, now this joint can move in the x-axis. It can move from left to right or right to left. Okay. So that is the second movement that is being taken. Then connected to this, we have the third link, okay, which is another link which can move in the y direction, which you can see there. Right. So there are three links. Each one of this link can move in individual axis, in individual direction. So one is in z direction, the other one is in x direction, the third one is in the y direction. So totally this can move in x, y and z coordinates, right? So I can have this arm to be placed over here and it can be extended like this, right? Okay, I can have it at this particular height also, right? So all these things, for the end manipulator, that is the type of holding device that is being present, okay, to hold or to grip, or there should be only a magnetic device or a drill bit, right? So the holding device over here can be suitably fixed onto those robots for the required purpose. Okay, so this can go anywhere when we give the x, y and z coordinates. If we give that, and if it is present in its required build volume, I'll come to what is build volume next. So if it can, if the XYZ coordinates are within the build volume, then definitely this end effector can go and reach that particular coordinate in the 3D space. Okay. So what are the advantages of this type of coordinate system? One is high resolution and accuracy. Counterbalance problem is there a little bit. Okay, that is what is going to happen is that if there is too much of weight over here that is going to be there, then, and if the base is not that strong, then because of this hanging weight which is eccentric away from its axis, so there is every possibility that this can tilt in the portion where it is heavily loaded, right? So there is a problem of counterbalance. So it can just fall down. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then the disadvantage is that it's a large structural framework, requires too much of framework, complex mechanical design for linear sliding motions, too many complications to have this sliding motions that has to be present between one link to another link. Okay. Okay, and the space is a little bit limited because this can have a build volume only in, now for this, coming to the build volume, it can, now the lines that are drawn in red color, okay, is nothing but the build volume, which represents like a rectangular prism or a square prism. Okay, so anywhere within this space, the robotic arm can reach. Now, if I have any other point to be reached over here, this arm cannot reach there because the height itself is only limited to this. But this is much more higher. plus it is outside the, even if I extend this arm to the right side also, it will not reach here, right? So anything within this space, that is the maximum limit that these arms can move. Okay, only within that, anywhere within that, the arm can reach. If it is outside this the extreme, then the boundaries of it, then it cannot reach. So this is nothing but the maximum places where the arm can reach for this particular type of configuration, right? So in a Cartesian configuration, the volume will be in a rectangular prism or a square prism type. Okay, that is also called as the workspace. Okay, the workspace within which it can work. Yeah. So now going to the cylindrical configuration. In cylindrical configuration, what is that? It is very much similar to the Cartesian coordinate only, but this particular link, which was in the previous, that is the Cartesian configuration, was a rectangular piece. Now it is a cylindrical piece. So since it is cylindrical, this particular link can rotate for 360 degrees. Can rotate for 360 degrees. And the third link over here can extend linearly. Okay, but whereas in the Cartesian coordinate, we had no rotational movements at all. Everything, all the arms can move only linearly, but here we have one rotational feature. Okay, one rotational feature. Plus, this entire setup can move linearly above or below, and also it can rotate for 360 degrees. Okay, it can rotate for 360 degrees, just like the cranes used for construction of buildings, tall buildings. You would have seen that lifting the concrete or other civil material, right? So just like that. Okay, it can move above as well as it can rotate also, right? So this Cartesian, this is cylindrical configuration system. Okay, where we need to give one is the height and other one is the length, two linear coordinates. Okay, two coordinates, and the other one we can give it in angles because it can rotate. Okay, so it can be programmed even if you know the angle. Okay, right? So, but that is not the case in Cartesian coordinate. Every point has to be mentioned only by x, y, and z. We cannot use any kind of angle theta, sin theta, cos theta over there. Okay, it cannot be programmed because it will not understand, the movements are not according to that. So how will this workspace be over here? So one is it can go around. Okay. One is it can go around because this is going, and then on the entire height. So it can just go 360 degrees, one at the top and one at the base also. So anywhere within this cylindrical space, this arm can reach. So what is the workspace that is being formed over here is nothing but a cylinder. Okay. So anywhere within this, the arm can reach. So this is mainly used, one of the example is that in some places we have also seen that there is this automated parking system where there's a tall structure and the car is going to be placed over here. So there's a lifting fork which is just going to lift this car, and there's a series of layers, that is every floor completed by 360 degrees, where it can place the car in the required segment, wherever it is free. That is, it has to be able to rotate completely for 360 degrees. Okay, so in such cases they will use cylindrical configuration rather than Cartesian configuration of robots, because this is much more easier and this is most suitable for that. right? Just a minute. Okay. Okay, so next is, okay, the advantages. So advantages, counterbalance problem is not that much over here. Okay, then mechanical design is little bit easier. Okay, and here we have two linear axes, that is two linear movements with one rotational movement that is possible in this type of structure. So the other thing is a little bit again large structural framework, little bit lower accuracy when compared to Cartesian robots, because once when we give angles, when converting it into required positional values, then there is some kind of error over here. Okay, and there is little bit restriction of workspace over here. So the next one is about the polar or spherical configuration. Okay, so this polar or spherical configuration, if you look at the diagram, it is very much similar to, say, for example, the war tanker. Okay, the war tanker that has been used in military purposes. Okay, something very similar to that. Okay, so here, so first thing is that here we have one link which can rotate this entire thing for 360 degrees. Okay, it can go around for 360 degrees. First thing. Okay, then connected to this, we have and another link which can linearly move in or out. That is one linear movement. Now here we have one rotational movement. Okay, and at the wrist, the joint that is present over here, there is another rotational that can be here. Plus the link provided over here, the dotted line that we can see over here, can lift this entire rectangular prism, okay, to a particular angle. Okay, to a particular angle, right? To a particular angle. So it can just, this arm can move in this particular direction if we rotate this. Okay, so it can lift above in an arc manner, or it can bend down in a forming an arc. Okay. Okay. So what is there? The advantages of this, one is it's low weight, minimal structural complexity, not that much of complex structures. Accuracy and resolution is better over here. Okay, and here we have only one linear, two rotational axes, two rotation and one linear movement. Okay, and the disadvantage is that torque is variable, large variations are there, and counterbalance problem will also occur over here. Okay, and the position error is large in the rotatory joints. Okay, so whereas we have two rotations, that is two rotational axes that is possible over here. So I'll just show you that. One is this rotation, the second one is the rotation of this body for 360. So the accuracy should be very, very good, right? So that depends upon the servo motor. Okay. So the build volume or the workspace for this will be like a doom, right? Because it can reach, say, for example, up to here. Okay, and as it reaches over here, what is going to happen? This arm, though it is going to be here, forming a radius, it is going to come up only over here. And once this is going to go for complete 360 degrees, okay, so this arm will be able to go for so much. But the moment it comes down over here, it has been extended so much. So once this rectangular base is going to go rotate for 360 degrees, it's going to go for like this, complete 360 degrees. So now when we just draw the tangents between this, it's going to look like a doom. Okay. So anything within this space, this RM can reach. Okay. So this is going to be the hemispherical shape. Okay. So that is the reason why it is called as spherical configuration, because the workspace that is going to be formed will be like a spherical. Okay. So that is the reason why it is called this name, spherical configuration. Yeah. So next is the jointed arm. Okay, this is very much similar to our arm, or the arm of a human being. Okay, so here what we can say is that, okay, now if we consider this as the shoulder joint, okay, and this is one link. Okay, this is one link, and this is our elbow joint, we can assume, and this is the wrist joint. Okay, and this is the palm and the fingers. So it looks very much similar to our human being, the arm of a human being only. So that is why it is called as the jointed arm or revolving section. So here what is going to happen is that this particular link can go in this particular direction in an arc form, so that it can swing. First thing. Second thing, this base, okay, then this base can rotate for 360 degrees. Then here also this one can rotate. That means lifting this second link in the upward or downward direction. And here at the wrist again it can rotate. So if we want to say this to where it is being used, if we look at the JCBs, okay, the JCBs just looks very much similar to this. Okay, where it can lift, okay, pull it down, put it down, it can scoop the material, right? Okay, so very much similar to that. Okay, so that has been actually considered by making use of the uh, by taking into the inspiration from the human arm itself. Okay, so yes, that is what is mentioned over here, which is very much similar to a human shoulder, elbow, and the wrist. Yeah. So here it's going to be, the workspace is going to be like a quasi-spherical space. Okay, it's going to be almost like a spherical shape itself is going to be the work space that is going to be obtained for this particular type of robot. So here advantages: very much flexible, good workspace. 3 rotational axes are present over here. There is some problem with the counterbalance, so the base has to be good. Poor resolution, because more the number of rotational axes, the resolution will go down, because each one of these rotations for each one of these joints has to be very, very accurate. Okay, higher moment of inertia, so there will be more vibrations or jerks that will be present. So applications, so first is to it can be replaced human beings in hazardous working environments. Repetitive tasks, that is pick and place. Okay, picking the material and loading it onto machine, and after machining it can remove the material from the machine and place it onto the on the required place. So pick and place objects purposes. Okay, and multi-shift operations where it has to work continuously. So there, okay, and it can perform at a steady pace, right? So that is there. And the other thing is that industrial robots, so some robots are meant only for the not only for welding or painting and other things, meant for material handling. So if we take up the example of Flipkart or Amazon, they have a large storage place where once every item has been booked for purchase, the details are sent where it where if we make use of a robot, it is going to go to that particular bin, take out only that particular material and put it onto the conveyor belt. Okay, so like that. Okay, so that is also going to be there. Okay. So in the processing operations, to especially in welding, right? So for all these weldings of automotive vehicles, that is the chassis frame, all those parts are welded together by the robotic weldings only. Yes, in assembly operations also, yes, it is being used. Okay, and in the inspection operations also, wherever once the part has been manufactured, the robot is going to do the necessary inspection as soon as it is going to be out of the machine. Okay, so based on that, the program will be written. If the values are going to fall within the required limits, then it is going to select that object. Otherwise, it is going to throw that object to the scrap bin, right? So this is all about the robotics that we have in this particular chapter. Okay, so next is that, one second. Just a moment. Okay. So yes, in the previous class, especially in CNC machines, uh, there was one term that I used as the automatic tool exchanger, shortly called as the ATC. So for on a lathe machine or a milling machine, many different types of tools are being used. So it has to be automatically loaded onto the machine. So what you can see over here is a circular type of automatic tool exchanger where yeah, there are slots provided where different tools can be mounted over here. Okay, and whenever there is the required tool has to be selected, this automatic tool changer is going to rotate. Okay, and there's going to be an arm which is going to remove that particular tool, load it onto the machine. Okay, so this is what is going to happen, how tool is being changed automatically in CNC machines. Okay, so yes, this is another form of having a built system. In each one of these places, we can have different tools that is going to be stored, having a coding system. According to the program, it is going to be, it is going to be selected and loaded onto the machine as well as unloaded from the machine as written in the program. So now I'll let me okay. So yes, this is for a cylindrical configuration system where if you look at this, this can go for 360 degrees. So the arm will also go for complete 360 degrees. This can be anywhere on this vertical link. So here also at the base also it can go for 360 degrees in between. So completely forming a cylindrical workspace, right? Yes, this is for a polar configuration. So it can go up to this from here in an arc manner that you can see, and it can rotate. This rotates, the arm is also going to rotate, forming a top circle. And if this portion is over here, then this arm can rotate for 360 degrees. So it's going to form like a partial sphere. So that's why it's called as spherical coordinates. Okay, I'll stop here for today.